You know it's going to be a good show when you pull up, and parked in the carport is a very rare 1953 Plymouth, which, oh, by the way, is owned by a famous NASCAR driver. And when you pull up, you're greeted by an Elvis sign. Welcome to Dream Rides. Imagine a place where you can see a classic Fiat drag racing coupe sitting right next to a 1950s Indy Streamliner. And the best, well, the best sits in front of both of them. This is one of the rarest cars in the world. This is a Ford J car, also known as a GT. We're here at the garage of Kenny Thompson, legendary fabricator in racing, legendary historian, and all-around great car guy. Now, we're gonna check out all these cars. We've got this one. We're gonna show you that and a whole lot more. Let's start with the one that covers the shortest distance, the dragster. Kenny, tell me about this awesome dragster right here and why.
The reason, years ago, NHRA outlawed the use of nitromethane in 1958. So people went to twin-engine cars instead of one for the extra horsepower. I just sort of progressed it a little bit more, updated it, current engine combination, longer wheelbase. It's just a fun project, something to do. I'm very fortunate I get up in the morning, walk out into my shop, and make a living at what I enjoy doing. I saw a 1961 Hot Rod magazine that had a Fiat with twin engines in it, and it inspired me to do this one. This is updated current. It has two SB2 Chevrolets. That's like they run in Sprint Cup, yep, as today, and they came from Hendrick. They're about 850 horsepower per engine. So you're looking at a total of 1,700. So it's pretty powerful. I haven't ran it yet. I'm waiting on the engines. They should be this week. I built it from a picture. I changed it somewhat. I extended the wheelbase. I threw my own design work into it. Normally we would direct drive. I put a power glide transmission in this. I just had my own ideas, and I felt it would improve it somewhat from what it was years ago. People years ago, when they had a twin-engine car, they would have written too bad, too thing, double trouble. I chose E equals MC squared, which is Albert Einstein's theory of relativity.
Because you're a genius too.
Well, I'm not a genius. I'm a sucker for punishment.
Well, I think you enjoy this kind of punishment.
I do enjoy it, yes I do. But the chassis, I built a complete chassis myself. I lengthened the wheelbase. It's current NHRA specifications, regulations, bracing on it, diameter of the tubing, the quality of the tubing. So it's updated to current specs.
Well, we've talked quarter mile. Let's talk 500 miles now.
Our next car is a piece of almost history, one that was predicted to change the world of endurance racing until a tragedy sent that dream off the track.
This is the fuel injection special. Now, back in the day, all the cars at Indy, they all seem to want to be called special, but this one truly is. This is an Indy Streamliner, Ken. Now, tell me some more about this amazing car.
In 1953 and 54, Bill Volkovich won the Indy 500. His team owner said, we're going to win 3 Indy 500s in a row. So they hired the best engineers, aerodynamic specialists, and this car was built with enclosed wheel wells and actually tested in a wind tunnel. It's all aluminum body, and this one, which this one is, but it was never completed in time to run it in Indianapolis. So the driver drove another car, was fatally was killed, and the team owner put this car up for 30 years. I believe it would have changed the whole outlook of Indianapolis racing had it been successful. This was purely legal at the time. I made the chassis off of a model car.
A model, like a little model?
Little model, 1/24th scale, which was current for that particular day. The body, a friend of mine came in here, Elliot Forbes Robinson.
Just a friend who happened to live here.
He lives right around the corner.
Also a famous name in racing.
Famous racer. He told me, he says, I've got a model of that car. And I said, Elliot, I don't believe you do. It's the only one ever made, and there's only one like it. He says, I believe it is. And that later on that afternoon, he brought me an 18-inch wooden model that was presented to him by Brock Yates of this actual car, and that's what I scaled this car off of, that particular model. The engine was supposed to have been a Novi, extremely rare Novi engine, which was twice the horsepower of an Offenhauser. They never won Indianapolis. They were developed in 1941. This particular one has a look-alike Maserati 8-cylinder 4-cam with an old Miller supercharger, centrifugal supercharger.
While this Streamliner is incredibly rare, when we come back, we're going to check out something that's even more rare.
This edition of Dream Rides, presented by Steel Rubber, is being brought to you by Aeromotive. We know it, we race it, we live it. Borla, the world's most winning exhaust. ARP, the world leader in fastener technology. And by Steel Rubber, quality crafted rubber parts and weather stripping.
Welcome back to Dream Rides. One of the things I love to do is learn about the history of racing and cars, and there is no greater history than this car that sits right here. Before we even get into this car, Ken, let's just talk about how iconic this car is and what this did for the world of racing.
In 1966, Ford was lucky enough to win the 24 Hours of Le Mans. But they were with foreign drivers and a foreign-built chassis in the earlier GT40. Ford wanted to win with American drivers, American-powered plant, in an American chassis. So they developed this chassis originally, this is called a J car. There was only two of them. Both have been destroyed. A person was killed in one. This was new technology, aluminum honeycomb chassis. And they twisted it to see if it would break, and they broke it, so it was destroyed. So there's not another one of these around. So they changed the body. They used the essential chassis, beefed it up a little bit, changed the bodywork on it to a more aerodynamic, and that's what they raced at Le Mans in '67 and was fortunate enough to win with A.J. Foyt and Dan Gurney.
You say you recasted the wheels, but it's more than that. These aren't just any wheels.
No, they're directional turbine wheels. Wider in the rear than in the front, and air goes through them, it's forced through them and comes out the center of the rim. It was sort of unique at the time.
So are you going to actually let me see the engine in here?
Yes, we'll look at the engine now.
Wow. Wow.
It is a 427 Ford medium riser, single carburetor with Le Mans, what they call float bowls on them, 2-speed transaxle, stainless steel headers. It's like it would have been in that particular era.
Well, let's go back. You said the transaxle. You actually made that yourself.
I did not make that.
Oh, you didn't?
No, that is an original part.
Get out.
There was probably only 2 or 3 in the world, and I was fortunate enough to have owned it at one time. I sold it and then bought it back.
Who does that?
Well, stupidity.
No, this is beautiful. We're going to move across the garage now, where Kenny actually has, if you remember from the 60s, Can-Am race cars. We're going to go check one of those out. Now, Ken, obviously this race car is not finished, but from its profile, we know it's a Can-Am. Tell me a little bit about where we are on this.
It is a copy of the original Honker, which was sponsored by Paul Newman, driven by Mario Andretti.
Whoa, back up. Honker. What does that mean?
That was, John Holman it was given that name because he used to drive a truck and he would honk the horn. This is a copy of a friend of mine's. It doesn't have the correct engine. They would have ran a 351 Ford. He has a tunnel port 427. And we're to the point now we got to put the body on it.
And you could put a lot of different bodies on this, couldn't you?
He's got the original molds to make the correct part. It's going to have the correct body, and it'll be painted purple, same as the other original was. This is a very thin aluminum, 35 thousandths thick monocoque. It's not honeycomb. The gray parts are 4130 as they were originally. The uprights, we have the original patterns to recast those. It should be 100% like it was years ago.
The Can-Am series was really popular back in the 60s, but the Trans Am series was pretty popular too,
Yes.
and this little garage actually has, now we can move over here to the Trans Am series, right?
Right.
So we're gonna head on over here to the Trans Am series section of the garage. Now these chassis aren't quite far along as some of the rest of your cars, but tell us about first, the whole Trans Am series.
Trans Am series, I think they started in '66 and continued for years until around 2004, and I believe they dropped it. And recently, they've had a rebirth of it and started racing these again. I do these for an individual. I've done several of them. I'm doing 3 currently right now. And at this stage, you cannot tell whether it's a Corvette, Mustang, Jaguar, Camaro. They're all the same. The chassis are all the same. The body that's put on it signifies what kind of car it is.
I'm so glad this is out like this because we can see that you actually, every single one of these welds and every cut, that you did this yourself.
It takes approximately a day and a half to weld one of these up. Once you've got it all tied together, just the welding part on it. Now, I haven't completed the front on these yet, but at this stage, it's a day and a half's worth of work. One would take you cut this length of tubing, why not cut 3 or 4 and do 3 or 4 at a time? You get the cost down per unit that way.
Coming up, we bid farewell to Kenny Thompson's garage and shift gears to another amazing shop where a husband and wife share a dream marriage and a dream career.
Welcome back to Dream Rides as we continue our tour of Charlotte. You know, in hot rodding, sometimes a car can be the cause of a divorce. Sometimes it can lead to great things, like love and marriage and a great company.
Case in point, Stacy and Kyle Tucker, gearheads who met, married, and eventually created the popular Detroit Speed brand.
Stacy and I met as college co-ops at General Motors in Detroit. Stacy went to Purdue, I went to University of Missouri Rolla, and we were college co-ops at GM. And from there, you know, I started thinking, you know, she's showing up to a lot of cruise nights, I go to cruise nights, we go to races, and pretty soon we started dating. So we learned a lot at GM, worked on some great programs, and you know, the car thing was always a hobby. We like to go to car shows, cruise-ins, and still go to the races. So we started building a '69 Camaro as a hobby at our 2-car garage at home. And I think it was 2 years, you know, we labored on that car, and if we didn't find a part of what we wanted to put into that car, we kind of, being engineers, we geeked out and designed a part and we made it. We had a Bridgeport before we had a couch in the house when we were first married. So the car was finished, we took it on you know, a cruise, and people started to say, hey, that's a neat car, where did you get this part? Where did you get that part? And pretty soon there was a business being born that we didn't know about. And from there we moved to a small commercial building in Detroit and outgrew that, and then we've landed in this location. So we have great people, way smarter, way better than I am, and we have fun every day, and we're fortunate to be really busy.
And I have to ask, because you and Stacy, your lovely wife, are known for autocross racing, and you both race, correct?
We do. You know, Stacy and I still love doing that. I grew up racing, and Stacy is out today, you know, autocrossing, and it's something we love to do. It satisfies a little bit of our competitive nature, but it's also, at the same time, we're developing our product line at Detroit Speed and marketing it, so it all ties together, and we get a lot out of that.
Okay, Stacy's not here, so you can be honest. Who's faster?
You know, I'm going to be the smart husband and say that Stacy's faster, and she'll tell you the same thing.
Well, the politically correct answer, I'm not going to give you. But I'm going to tell you, in my car, I can beat him.
Stacy keeps her driving skills in peak form with a variety of race cars. And what she learns on the track helps develop the company's wide range of products.
I really enjoy driving the cars and autocrossing and road racing because it really lets you be one with the car and experience using the car and not just sitting in a lawn chair behind the car and looking at all these nice parts you put on your car. It really lets you use the car to its fullest extent. You buy all these parts and put them on the car. We build the parts to do exactly what we're doing out here today to autocross, and it's really neat to see people using our parts to road race, to autocross, to drive them exactly how we've intended.
Our visit coincided with Detroit Speed's annual open house, where hundreds of guests enjoy an evening of cars, conversation, and charity.
It's really a big night for our employees, for us, everybody at Detroit Speed. Their families come in, they get to see what the guys are working on, what everybody does here. But people come from all over, you know, to be able to come to our annual open house, and it's a big deal for us. We serve almost 800 people a catered meal tonight. Good North Carolina barbecue and some sweet tea. And the neatest thing about all this is we take all the $5 plate donations and give that to charity, to Victory Junction Gang Camp, and it goes to a great cause.
And that's what's really cool about what you do, what I do, what all of us do. It's really not about the cars, is it?
No, you know, the cars are a small part of it. That's why we all get together, probably an excuse, but it's all about the people and the relationships.
Those relationships have helped the Tuckers create an amazing custom Camaro for a major car event and a sweet Mustang for Stacy's dad. We'll check them both out when we come back to Dream Rides.
This edition of Dream Rides, presented by Steel Rubber, is being brought to you by ARP, the world leader in fastener technology. Precision Turbo, the winning edge in boosted performance. Stage 8, the world's best locking fastener. And by Steel Rubber, quality crafted rubber parts and weather stripping.
In the car world, the biggest and baddest car show in the land is the SEMA show. Now, everybody brings out their best rides for that show, and I'm here with Kyle Tucker from Detroit Speed, and you've got an amazing 69 Camaro that is going to be in the ARP booth. First, just tell me about this ride.
Yeah, you know, this was a really special build for us. It's a good friend now, good customer. That's what this is all about. It's about building real cars for real people. And it's for Angelo Vespi out of St. Augustine, Florida. And we were able to build this car and finish it earlier this summer. The guys have done just an awesome job with it here. And we're taking it to SEMA here. Loads up next week.
Wait, you say you finished it up earlier this summer. How long does a build like this take?
You know, a car like this can take as many modifications that are in it. When you really start looking at it, it can take 2 to 3 years. So that's the real world. It doesn't take 2 weeks to do this. There's a lot of 69 Camaros built out there, and people have built them about every way you can think of. For us, it was something to take Angelo's ideas and build his dream car, and that's really what we've done. So the hood, you know, there's usually a front valance, the hood, and then a cowl panel, and there's really all that is together in one hood. So Aaron, the fabricator on the car, took 2 hoods, the valance and the cowl, and put it all together. So that's just one little subtle thing. Flush mount glass, you know, of course, big wheels and tires, custom lower valance out of aluminum and spoiler. One of the real tricks of the car were the guys to be able to put flat paint, you know, flat clear it. That was a really big job for Michael and Ted, and it's something that's not a lot of people do. It's hard to do, especially to put different colors, the stripes, the checkered, you know, pattern in it. It is very time consuming, and there is no way you can have any backup, you know. I mean, it's just, it has to be right when the flat clear goes on, and then to be able to have it where it's all one finish as you run your finger across it. The guys are really good here.
And no, you don't bring a car to Detroit Speed just to have it restored and customized. This is pretty much a race car.
You know, it really is. It's a race car in street car clothing. It's something that our customers expect, a 69 Camaro look maybe in this case, but supercar everywhere else. You know, I mean, it may be AMG quality creature comforts inside, but also performance, demanding performance. The car has ABS brakes. You know, I mean, it's a supercharged LS engine from Mast. It's almost 900 horsepower. I mean, it has everything you could wish for in a 69 Camaro.
During the open house, one car had a prominent place at the entrance to the show, and it belongs to someone whose passion for cars helped launch the company.
All right, Stacy's dad. So tell us, where does Stacy get the car bug?
Well, there's a lot of theories on where she got the bug to be around cars, but I think growing up with me, an old street rodder was a big part of that.
Let's talk about this car.
This is a 1967 Mustang Coupe. The way I got this car is an interesting story. My daughter and son-in-law took my 1966 museum quality Mustang and used it as a development car for Mustang parts. They took my car and it was so successful that they showed it all over the country and raced it all over the country, and it became apparent pretty soon that I wasn't going to get it back. So we began some negotiations, if that's the right term, with the daughter. And she said they had a 67 Coupe that they'd be glad to give me in exchange, and it would be a good deal for me. I looked at it, and it was from San Antonio. It had been wrecked at a traffic light 37 years ago and put in storage. And so she was trying to pawn off a wrecked 67 Coupe to me, and I resisted a little, but daughters can be very persuasive, and particularly mine. The project took about 19 months, and obviously Colin Stacy's guys did the installation of the front and rear suspension, subframe connectors, and all that.
And the color, it's unique for a Ford.
Yes, it is. I was looking for something a little different. This is a Chrysler color called dark titanium. And it's the formula is obviously a metallic gray, but there's a few drops of green added. And when the sunlight hits it, you see a little undercast of greenish brown kind of color showing through. As far as the interior is concerned, I was looking at on the internet at every interior I could find. And I started seeing that black and brown, or black and various shades of tan, were beginning to show up. And they had a European look, and I kind of liked that look. And so I chose these colors very early. Mustangs aren't known for headroom. So I looked for seats that had a shallow seat base under them. And these seats are out of a Chrysler Crossfire, and one of the few that has a very thin seat under it. Then in addition, I took the mounting pad and cut it off and lowered it 1.25 inches, moved it back, moved the shifter back. So this car may not fit anybody else, but it's perfect for me.
One last bit of business. Since our visit with Kenny Thompson, he's installed the power plant into his dragster, and check out the incredible sound. That's all for this edition of Dream Rides, but join us next week when we spend some time with NASCAR legend Bobby Allison, and we get an inside peek at a custom pickup being secretly built just for Bobby. Be sure to join us.